A very good afternoon to one and all who have joined us virtually for 7 days faculty development program. Reva University heartily welcomes you all to this intellectual agglomeration. I, Dr. Divya Kumari KP, Assistant Professor from the Department of Media Studies, the School of Arts, Humanities and Social Sciences, Reva University, deem it an honor in hosting today's FTP session. To quote Thomas Hunt Morgan, the media has enormous power. The media is undergoing huge changes now. It seems like it's time to step back and look at how the media shapes our lives and our perception of reality. The media landscape is profoundly transforming in an era of rapid technological advancement. The rise of social media and other digital platforms have revolutionized how news and information are disseminated, allowing individuals and businesses to connect with their target audiences more effectively and efficiently. However, these changes have also presented new challenges to the media professionals. Media experts must adopt strategies and remain attuned to the latest uh, trends to thrive in this rapidly evolving technological environment. It is indeed a proud privilege to kickstart the 7 day FDP on evolving mediascape trends and challenges. I take this opportunity in welcoming all the participants of today's session. I deem it an honor to welcome and introduce the esteemed speaker for today's session, Professor Narendra Kaushik. Professor Narendra Kaushik is a former editor, international author, columnist, motivational speaker, and currently Dean School of Mass Communication in JCRC University, Jaipur. He became journalist after quitting a cozy job with Controller and Auditor General of India and became an editor in less than 15 years. He worked with almost all genre of media and digital media, including dailies, weeklies, monthlies, quarterlies, tabloids, and broadsheets. Foreign publications based in Southeast Asia, Gulf region, and Europe. During his over 2.5 decades decades in journalism, he broke news and did exposes on 2001 Parliament attack, match fixing case, international terror syndicates, underworld, and Gurmeet Ram Rahim. In 2020 and 2021, his book, Mahatma Gandhi in Cinema, was published in London. The book was written about across India with major publication like The Hindu, Deccan Herald, National Herald, the Free Press Journal, Kashmir Times, and Outlook magazine, having interviewed him or written about the book after interviewing him. In 2013, he was part of project on electoral democracy funded by European Network Research Program. The London School of Economics and Political Science was the chief investigator in this project. He wrote a study on Indian democracy after having spent around a month in Dali Rajha, a mining town in Chhattisgarh. He has covered a good number of parliamentary and state elections. He has been addressing World Ramayan Conference since 2016 and has spoken in 3 conferences so far. He has spoken or written extensively on Ramayan in India and Southeast Asia, Mahatma Gandhi, and Indian international cinema. He has addressed teachers and students in a number of universities, including Utkal University, Bhubaneswar, Odisha, and MGM University, Aurangabad, Maharashtra, and chaired session in number of conferences. Professor Kaushik knows a bit about print, radio, cinema, and digital media, and is an avid listener and eloquent communicator. I accord heartily welcome to you, sir. Dear participants, you can post your questions to the resource person in the Q&A box after the session. You can also raise your hand to ask question after the session. We'll take up this question once the resource person ends his talk. Now, without much further ado, I request Professor Narendra Kaushik to share his insights on the topic storytelling in digital space. We look forward to hearing from you, sir. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, Dr. Divya. Can everybody hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Let me be honest, Dr. Divya. I didn't expect you to read the entire profile of mine. And let me tell you, it's all very exaggerated. Why? There's a reason for it. When I joined government job, this was in 1989. I don't know whether you were even born that time. Uh, I used to be 5'7.5". Okay, I'm talking about my height, 5'7.5". And let me tell you, like whenever I measure myself nowadays, it always turns out to be 5'6.5". So I don't know, like I've lost 1 inch. So I mean that's about it. And I don't know whether you noticed it. This was a story. This was a story that that I narrated to tell you how I lost 1 inch of my height in in less than 3 decades. Anyway, I'm calling it a story because this talked about my experience. This also talked about you know about a mental conflict that that I've been facing. Like where did I lose this 1 inch of my height? So let me tell you, this is what storytelling is all about. That you provoke emotions. You talk about sequence of events. You talk about your experiences. And can we go to the first slide, please? The next one. Yes. It's basically about sequence of events, experiences, real or imagined. Okay, through spoken, written, or visual means. This is what storytelling is. I'm sure you would know all about this. And basically, story means there has to be a conflict and there has to be a resolution. There has to be a beginning, there has to be a conflict, and there has to be a resolution. So basically, three parts: beginning, middle, and end. And that's about storytelling. You would remember, like when we were kids, my father would narrate a lot of stories to me. And in fact, I still remember there used to be an old man in my street. Unfortunately, I've lost most of those stories, but he would narrate stories which would even be longer than the night. So, this is how we spent our childhood in listening to stories. Can we go to the next? Can we go to the next slide? Yes. So, those were like all audio stories, like like audio, and we would hear from older people. But nowadays, like stories are all about multimedia presentation. Stories are much more interesting. Excuse me. Much more interesting now because we apart from using text, we can use images, we can use videos, audios, even memes, social media elements. You must have seen this in reports, in news reports that journalists they quote tweets, and even other interactive elements like digital maps. And when you talk about memes, you know, like uh, I saw some of the elections in 1990s, and in those days, a lot of political parties would use caricatures, they would use cartoons, to make fun of their opponents. I still remember it. So, can we move to the next, please? So, storytelling is basically now um, a multimedia presentation. Okay, and stories basically what they do, they capture our attention, they enhances our retention and recall. Can we go to the next? They foster connection and empathy. and conveys complex information simply. I still remember, like, my father would narrate the story of a child. You know, child. I can hear you. Please, please switch off your mic. Mr. G. Vasant, please. Okay. So I was saying, my father would narrate story of a child who, like, who won a bride, who started off with one paisa, and how he won a bride as well as wealth. So, you know, this was a complex story, but it was told in simple words, very simply by my father. So it illustrates values, morals, the story that I told you initially, like how I lost 1 inch of my height. It also had a moral, and that moral is that life is ephemeral, life is temporary, okay, and life is full of decadence, okay. Though I'm not saying it uh, you know with a sad voice, but this is what it is. And can we go to the next? Yes, it creates a sense of belongingness, inspires action and change. This basically happens in cinema. But sometimes stories do inspire action and change. Some of you might have watched that movie, Rang De Basanti. You remember, like, it starts off by telling stories of these revolutionaries, and then these characters who play revolutionaries, they become revolutionaries, ultimately. So this is that inspired action. So enhances persuasion and influence. You must have seen Prime Minister Modi talking about a lot of things, and I mean politicians in particular. They use a lot of persuasion to to bring the voters on their side. You would remember Barack Obama. Yes, we can. I mean that was the that was a good example. That was a brilliant example of positive communication. Can we move to the next, please? So it promotes creativity and innovation and preserves cultural heritages and knowledge. In fact, I don't know whether you've heard about this tradition of storytelling in Rajasthan. There's a very old tradition of storytelling in Rajasthan. This is called storytelling through cowards. And what these people do, they carry cowards on their. You must have seen those cowards. So I'm talking about the same kind of cowards that Kavadias carry from Haridwar. But these people, they carry different cowards on their shoulders, and these cowards have like beautiful pictures from Ramayana, Mahabharata, and other epics. And these coward carriers, they move from door to door and they ask these people to choose stories from those that coward, and then they narrate those stories. That's that's an old tradition, storytelling tradition. And can we move to the next? So it's a powerful communication tool. Can we move to the next? Digital platforms and storytelling. But let me first tell you uh, how communication is affected by. Have we already gone through this? Can you go back to the next last slide, please? Yes, I think we have already gone through it. But let me tell you why storytelling is important for communication. In fact, I would say communication is all about storytelling. If you are a good storyteller, you'll definitely be a good communicator also. You would remember Amin Sayani. I mean, I don't know, like how old are all of you, but if somebody one of my age, he would remember. He or she would remember Amin Sayani. He would present that Geetwala program in Sebaka. bhaiyo or behno, and this is how he would start. Obviously, he was a good storyteller, and that's why he was a good communicator. Let me give you another example. Can you move to the next slide? I'll give you that example. Uh, no, no, where are we now? Can we move to the next? No, to last slide. Last. No, no. I'm saying no. The last one. No, no, no. Last. Yes, yes. Go to the next. Go to the next. So I was saying communication is very important. Storytelling is very important for communication. I'll give you another example. How you can make communication interesting. Like I teach cinema studies, and there's a chapter in cinema studies is cinema and art with technology. And what I did, I played a song for my students, and the song was from an old movie of Rajesh Khanna. And Rajesh Khanna had starred in that movie with Simple Kapadia, his sister-in-law. And that movie had a song, radio song, basically. Rajesh Khanna is supposed to be a singer on radio, and he records that song, Aate Jate Khoobsurat, that kind of song. And it's a beautiful song, sung by Kishore Kumar. I played that song for my students, and then I asked them what was the art in this. Then they told me a lot of things. Like they told me there was language, uh, there was music, uh, there was acting, there were characters, and they talked about all these things, and there was a bit of dance also. And they talked about all these things because art is basically what helps us in expressing ourselves. It may be dance, it may be music, or it may be language. It may be anything. In fact, even non-verbal communication is an art. So, I played that song, and then I asked them what was the technology in this. And let me tell you, my students were so happy about it. And in fact, they had an exam yesterday, and they were telling me, "Sir, this exam was it was very easy." I said it wasn't easy. You are calling it easy probably because you understood things. So this is how storytelling helps. Let's go to the next. Politicians, they use a lot of storytelling. Uh, you must have heard Prime Minister Narendra Modi. He talks about his opulence. He talks about them, questions them, what they did in 100 years, or not really, not 100 years. I mean, He talks about 70 years. He talks about 70 years that they couldn't do what we have done you know, in last say 9 years. They couldn't do in 70 years, and he obviously he narrates it as a story, and that's what makes it interesting. And let's can we move to the next, please? So in storytelling, we have a lot of options nowadays. Like we can use graphics, we can use video, we can use audio, we can use memes, we can even record dances, we can use lyrics. This is what makes stories interesting. Can we move to the next? That's why this is called transmedia storytelling, because it uses a different sections of media. There are also monetization opportunities like I'm sure you must have heard of Nilesh Misra. He used to narrate stories on one of the FM radios, and now he's still I don't know whether he still narrates stories, but he used to narrate stories for a particular medium now, and he obviously makes money from storytelling. Can we move to the next? So, creating a digital story. If you want to create a digital story, uh, you'll have to choose a theme, you'll have to choose a topic, you'll have to choose your narrative structure, what kind of narration you go for, whether you go for a third party narration or there are also other kinds of narrations. Sometimes narrator also misleads, uh, and sometimes the narrator is honest. Sometimes the narrator knows more than the audience. Sometimes the audience knows more than the narrator. So these are the different narrative structures, and we can choose accordingly. Let's move to the next. Characters, visuals, audio elements. But let me tell you how you can make a story interesting. Like if you ask me, uh, how many Mahatma Gandhis were there? I would say that social scientist Ashish Nandi, he says there were four Mahatma Gandhis, and then he goes on, you know, like he goes on like counting all these Gandhis, four Gandhis. That one is a political Gandhi. He's generally invoked by politicians. Then he talks about the other Gandhi, who basically wanted to bring about a change through moral conscience. And I mean, this is how it goes on. But I can say there were even more than a dozen Gandhis. Why? Because you must have noticed, when Narendra Modi launched Clean India Mission, he invoked, excuse me, somebody is speaking. I said when Narendra Modi launched Clean India Mission, he invoked Mahatma Gandhi. And let me tell you, this was another Gandhi. This was uh, I can tell you before 1920s, Gandhi was a casteist, was a half. In fact, Arundhati Roy calls him half casteist, and there's a reason for it because he was for caste vocations. He was also against interdining, against intermarriages as well. But let me tell you, after his confrontation with B.R. Ambedkar in 1920s, he like turned upside down on almost all these aspects of untouchability, like caste vocations. He said anybody can choose any vocation one wants, and then he made it mandatory for his ashram inmates that they let get into intermarriages and also interdining. So, and in fact, I'll tell you another interesting thing. Before 1920s, like his second son, Manilal, he wanted to marry a girl called Fatima in South Africa. She was a Muslim, and obviously he was a Hindu. And Gandhi didn't allow this marriage. Wrote number of letters to Manilal saying, "You are a Hindu, she's a Muslim, so how the two of you will get along." And then later on, in 1920s, his youngest son, Devdas Gandhi, who was also who was also Hindustan Times editor. Uh, he fell in love with C. Rajgopalachari's daughter, Lakshmi, and but Gandhi made him wait for 5 6 years, and the reason was because he was against intercaste marriages that time. So again on this one also he turned upside down. He stood on his head and then he allowed it finally. So, life is all about evolution. In fact, this doesn't just apply to Gandhi. This applies to me, this applies to all of you. Life is all about evolution. What you were yesterday, say, Bhavya, what Bhavya was yesterday. Obviously, Bhavya may not be the same person, say, 5 years later. or 10 years later. Because life is all about evolution. People do change. And in fact, truth is also relative. What was truth yesterday, it may not be truth today. Or what may be truth today, it may not be truth tomorrow. Because things keep on changing. So, these are the things we must, keep in mind. But I was saying, if you want to capture you know, like your listeners' attention immediately, or your audience attention immediately, you should start with the with something very different. Like I said, there were a dozen galleries, and I'm sure that all of you, must have popped up that oh, he's going to talk about 12 galleries. But let me tell you, this is what storytelling is all about. You can use graphics, you can use animations, you can use illustrations, you can use images, infographics, audio elements. Even in audio elements, in fact, if you listen to some audio expert, voice modulation expert, and I have listened to a number of them, you know, uh, they can make a story very interesting because they can modulate their voice according to the character. Can we move to the next? Script or storyboard, text and captions, uh, transitions and effects. These are all essential parts of storytelling. Obviously, you have to draw a storyline. You have to write dialogues. You have to put the visuals in a structured manner. Okay. Basically, storyline serves as a blueprint even for the digital story. You know, the other things may have changed. Let me tell you, in storytelling, uh, but the storyline is same. Because if a, if your communication, if you are not a good storyteller, if you don't have good stories, obviously you will not be able to sustain your audience interest. Yeah, can we move to the next? I would have loved to make this interactive, but then you have like you switched off everybody's audio. I can't see video also, but it has to be interactive. If you don't make a story interactive, uh, if you don't ask questions, if people don't answer questions, or if people don't ask questions, yeah, please, I can see one hand raised. Thank you very much. Emotional appeal now is
Uh,
it's an
yes,
yes.
sir. Yes, sir. Sir, I wanted to ask you this. What do you think it is more important in today's times, the content or the technological aspect in the storytelling, the digitization that you are saying, which is more important, the content or the digital aspect? Your comments, sir.
Yes, Dr. Sudeshna, it's all about content. If you don't have content, whatever gimmicks you do, they'll all fall flat. You remember this guy's film, Prabhas film. What was the name of that movie? What was the name of the movie that released recently? It
Adipurush.
was Adi Purus. Adi Purus. Let me tell you, it fell flat because it didn't have content. It didn't have content. It had a lot of gimmicks. It had animation. It had all VFX and other things. But then technology cannot sustain a bad story. Let me tell you, I'm clear about this. I can give you lots of other examples also. Do you want me to give other examples as well?
Yes, sir, you can, sir.
Okay, okay, all right. Let me tell you this Khosla Ka Ghosla, Debakar Banerjee's movie. It was a very small budgeted movie. Then look at Newton. It was probably made for, I don't know for how much, maybe 50 lakhs, 40 lakhs, but it ended up making 30, 40 crores. Why? Because it had a wonderful story. It had a very different kind of story, the kind of service the election officials, government election officials do, uh, to make the elections fair. Uh, it was a wonderful story. It was a wonderful story. So it's all about content. And let me tell you, even in future, it will all be about content. Mahabharata is successful. Mahabharata is still a very interesting epic. Ramayana is still a very interesting epic, and I would call them cultural epics. They are still popular because they have wonderful stories. They tell wonderful stories. So the content, it has to be content. Dr. Sudeshna, is it okay?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Sir, I also wanted to, get your comments on this idea of post-truth in today's storytelling, sir. In terms of films like Kashmir Files or recently released Vaccine War. So there is an aspect of post-truth in today's storytelling where they say, no, certain they are fact-based, certain things, incidents are fact-based. So how do both audiences approach that? And what do you think this tells for the aspect of storytelling on the part of maybe filmmakers also? Should we engage in that? What is your take on that, sir?
Sudeshna, I don't find anything wrong with post-truth stories. Why? Let me tell you. In fact, like we never raise questions when somebody makes Amir or when somebody makes a film based on 2002 riots. And let me tell you, there should be stories about not just about you know riots where one community suffered. There should be stories. There should be post-truth stories about all kinds of tragedies, all kinds of atrocities. Let me tell you, there's a scope for it. There is a scope for it. I'm all for it. I'm all for it. I would say make stories about 1984 riots, make stories about 2002, 2002 riots, make stories about uh, you know Kashmir violence in Kashmir or exodus of Kashmiri Pandits. Why not? Why not? Why should we be selective? Why should we be selective? Just because I mean these are double standards. If you talk about one community, then you are secular. If you talk about some other community, then you are communal. I'm sorry, I don't agree with this. I would say, all kinds of post-truth stories should be told. Is it okay, Dr.
Yes,
Suresh?
sir. But
Yeah.
many a times this kind of storytelling is being termed as propaganda. So should we see that in that way?
So
Or
tell me, would you call Amir propaganda? Would you would you call that other movie? I've forgotten the name of that movie. There was another movie which was also made from minorities' perspective from Gujarat. Right? Would we call that also? Would you call that also propaganda? If it was not propaganda, then this is also not propaganda. I don't see anything wrong with it.
okay, sir.
Is it
Okay.
okay? Yeah. Yes. Anybody else?
Sir, I have a question.
Yeah, please.
Sir, now what we have seen in social media, a lot of this hyper reality is being posted. Like, you go to any place, you post it, or you visit a restaurant, you post it, and like a lot of things are happening in their life, and we may feel that there is nothing happening. We may feel that in a way. Like, what is your take on that, sir?
Well, it has to be up to an individual. If you feel, you should not publicize every aspect of your life, then you are entitled to it. Okay. If I feel that I should publicize everything, then I am entitled to it. So it's it's all an individual's decision. Okay, and but I can tell you, social media has definitely widened the gap, widened fault lines in the society. It has definitely created. It has definitely. I mean, fault lines were already there, but these fault lines have been exposed by social media. Because I remember, like in 1990s, when we were journalists, we would hardly bother about anybody's religion. But now, like that's the first thing that comes to your mind. Unfortunately, very unfortunately, because social media has, because everybody is not responsible. Let me give you another example. I visited Meva in I don't know whether it was in 2016 or 2015, and a lot of cases were launched there. It was around the time when Geo was launched, and Geo. I mean, I'm sure you would agree with me on this. Geo really revolutionized mobile communication, and particularly data proliferation. So I visited that place because some half a dozen cases were launched there. And let me tell you, this is one of the most backward areas in Haryana, and it's mostly inhabited by minority community, and people are mostly semi-literate there. And I found there, in fact, I had stayed in that place once. I was told only two girls were studying there in class 12. And when I expressed my desire to meet these girls, I was told, oh, they live in Hyderabad. I said, then why did you say that they are studying here? So that kind of, you know, and people are semi-literate there or illiterate there. And that's why they were posting all kinds of messages, forwarding all kinds of messages against gods and goddesses. And that was creating a lot of strife. So it depends on how responsible you are. If you are irresponsible, then you will do it. But government has tightened rules, and government will have to, you know, make the rules stricter. But then, besides that, we'll have to educate people. We'll have to make people aware that you should be very responsible in forwarding messages and writing messages because you have no right to trample on somebody's beliefs. This is what we were taught as journalists that we should never trample on somebody's beliefs because your beliefs may be very different from my beliefs, but I have no right to laugh on your beliefs. This is how I look at it. Is it okay, Dr. Divya?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Sir, I also have one question from our participant. Uh, how to develop storytelling skill? Not everyone can view a story and present it right beautifully or in a very appealing way. So, what is your suggestion on that, sir?
Let me tell you who is this person who has asked the question?
She's Dr. Professor Yamuna from our own department, sir.
Professor Yamna. Okay, Professor Yamna, thank you very much. Let me tell you, nothing sells like nothing sells like truth. Truth is the biggest saleable item when it comes to storytelling. If you are truthful in telling stories, let me tell you, you will always be a hit. Khushwant Singh was a very mediocre writer. I would call him mediocre, particularly his later. I mean, whatever he wrote in the later stage of his life, it was all very mediocre. But then he still there was he still had a lot of takers. Why? Because he was very truthful. So let me tell you, a lot of movies are becoming big hits because they are based on real incidents. Like Toileting Prem Katha, then that Bad Man. Even they grow. inspiration from real events like Toilet Ek Prem Katha. It was based on Anita Nari's story in Madhya Pradesh. So, so it's all about truth. Even Gandhi's, I don't know, has anybody read that story? The story of my experiments with truth.
Mm,
I have
I
read,
have
sir.
Has any of you read it? Okay. Let me tell you, it's a very interesting book. And Gandhi was a very pedestrian kind of writer. He would write and then erase it, then again write. He was not a very good writer, but then it makes wonderful reading, very interesting reading because it's all about truth. It's all about truth, yeah, and it's all about conflict. If you can create a conflict, proper conflict, and nothing like it. Professor Yamuna, is that okay?
I think she is unable to unmute herself, sir.
Okay.
So yes, very true, sir. What you said is very true. Anybody else have questions? You can post it in chat box or you can raise your hand and ask question.
Somebody has asked a question. Can you read it out? Chat. Oh, yes. Why is storytelling restricted or associated with social and not print media to an extent broadcast media? No, I don't agree with you. I don't agree with you. I know like there's more storytelling on in social media. Maybe because these people they don't get enough avenues. And you would also remember print media has had limited space. It still has limited space, but you talk about social media, then that space is unlimited. The bandwidth of that space is like huge. So that's why probably some examples of transmedia in journalism. Look at Indian Express. Every newspaper is doing it. Look at Indian Express. That Express Adda, where they interview one celebrity for the every month or every 15 days. That's transmedia. And then look at the kind of stories which are there on any of the platforms. You will find a lot of tweets in stories, tweet, Twitter messages. So that's transmedia. You'll find videos, you'll find podcasts. So that's transmedia. That's transmedia. Yeah. Anybody else?
Sir, I have one more question.
Yeah, please.
Uh-huh. Sir, now we are living in a situation where the media landscape is changing, and also our interest level has also gone down so much. Like we will not spend more than maybe around 3 seconds. And also reading habits, if you look at the youngsters, they will not read more than a paragraph. Or if we ask them to read one newspaper, also they will only read the headlines and they will stop it over there. So, in this kind of changing landscape, how do we make our content interesting, especially when we are posting this kind of stories on social media?
Well, one, you should be very careful in what you write. I probably write better messages. Uh, so I don't know, I'm just beating my own drum. But because what I do, first I write a message, then revise it. Always revise it. So you should be very careful in what you write or what you peddle on social media. Okay, because sometimes what happens, we are in a hurry and we post wrong messages, we post incorrect messages. We should be very careful because you'll have to cultivate an image. This is social media is the society now. Okay, so you should be very careful in what kind of image you cultivate. So you should be careful. And what else did you ask, Dr. Divya?
Sir, that is what, like, how do we develop the content which can be interesting, which can grab the attention of the
Okay,
readers?
okay, okay, okay. I'll tell you. There are lots of stories that happen around you. Okay, you should always look at. You should always have a keen eye, and you should be a keen observer of what happens around you. There are lots of stories around you. In fact, sometimes I feel that I'll have to tell probably hundreds of stories. We'll have to write hundreds of books because so much has happened around you. And always remember, everybody is a character. Be it your mother or your father, or you or your wife, or even your children. Everybody is a character. We are all characters, and we are all funny characters. Let me tell you, funny characters. We are all weird in some way or the other. I always tell my students that if somebody laughs at you, don't feel bad about it because that simply shows that you're fearless. Because you're not hiding anything. Okay, because everybody is weird, everybody is mad. We have all of us. We have our madnesses. Let me tell you, and always look for these stories around you. Like I can give you some stories also, but I don't want to disclose those stories because I like to get it copyrighted and probably I'm going to share it with somebody. There are lots of stories. There are lots of stories around you. Just look around you. Look at everybody as a character. My mother is a character. My father is also a character. And hopefully, whenever I write about them, even at my maternal uncle's place, everybody was a character. And they were all funny, very funny. Let me tell you. But I am not going to spare any of them whenever I would write about them. And this is what you should be. If you want to generate good content, be unsparing. Don't spare anybody. Okay? And don't hold yourself back. I've just finished reading Veer Sangvi's book, A Rude Life. And there he makes fun of even his mother. His mother eloped with his father. And she was telling, she told his father once uh, that, his father got to know that her father was threatening to take out gun and he was threatening to shoot her, for this elopement. And one day, since he dismissed that threat, she said, "Oh, he's a banyan. He can't do anything. He can't do anything." So he says that when I asked my mother, she said, "But this was it. Maybe I was disrespectful, but this was it. This was a fact. But my father couldn't have done anything. He didn't do anything because, I mean, he could never. He couldn't even hold the pistol. Forget about firing at somebody. So, you should be. I would again say, be truthful. Look around you. Look for interesting stories. Look at people as characters. Okay, and you're also a character. Let me tell you, I'm also a character. We are all funny characters. Yeah. Anybody
Yes, sir,
else?
that is wonderful way of looking around. Anybody else would like to ask question? You can
There's
unmute
also a
yourself and
question.
ask question.
There's also a question from Mary D'Souza. The population in social media is so diverse. What key points we should keep in mind for effective storytelling, understanding diverse demographics involved, and there's no specific audience. Always look at people as people. Look at people as human beings. Let me tell you, never look at them as as belonging to one religion or the other. Don't look at their religion. Don't look at their caste. Don't look at their gender also. Let me tell you, gender is useless. Uh, we should be gender neutral. High time that we all become gender neutral because it's all about human beings. And whatever you write, always keep this in mind that it's all about that you are writing for human beings. Okay, and keep those elements always on top. Is that clear? Mary D'Souza? Thank you.
Anybody else who have a question?
Hello.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am, you can ask question.
I'm Bhagyalakshmi Padaki. Sir, I have been observing the story telling patterns over the print as well as with the digital storytelling patterns. I feel that print version is more effective because it has a definite style and the way the author puts into lot of concepts of literature in his storytelling. That kind of discipline is not there with digital storytelling. Do you agree with me?
Not really, Bhagyalakshmi ma'am. Though, I would still say that sanctity of print media is still more. That's why we trust print media, compared to television or compared to other mediums of communication, even social media or like digital media. We trust print media more, and there is a reason for it because printed word has more sanctity. That's one. And two, I'm sure you would also agree with me on this. In print, people are supposed to keep themselves out of the story. In fact, most of the stories are written in third person. Okay, but on digital media or in social media space, you can write in first person. I'm not saying that writing in first person is less interesting. At times, it's even more interesting. But probably that's the reason why you find print media more appealing because the authors, they keep themselves out of the stories. Okay, and two, like the printed word has more sanctity. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, sir. Yeah.
Anybody else? Oh yes, suggest some resources material to find business of transmedia storytelling Indian contexts. Well, Ambika, ma'am, is that Ambika? Ambika, ma'am, I'm sorry, like I haven't tried any of these platforms, but I have heard that there are some 36 websites and apps, uh, through which you can tell your stories. And obviously, these apps and websites they would help you in making your stories multimedia. Okay, they would provide multimedia for your stories. There are lots of them. Just Google like storytelling apps and storytelling websites. There are more than 3 dozen. That's what I know. But I haven't tried any of them. Or you can even tell stories in physical space. There are storytellers in physical space. Uh, I don't know whether there are any storytellers in Bangalore, but there are some in Chennai. And I know, yes, Anybody else?
Yes, sir. I wanted to ask you, like, in terms of certain storytelling in advertising, sir. Generally, we tend to go with the current fad, like in terms of the Starbucks advertising, which showed recently in India the LGBTQ representation, of a character called Arpit, and she turns into Arpita, and that quoted a lot of controversy in terms of people had certain adverse things and critiques to say about that particular thing. But there is a kind of a trend or a fad which is going on with this kind of. I'm not against any kind of representation, but we see more of it in the recent times. So how do we go about it, especially in the field of advertising, sir? How do we judge, what will work in our favor, or or should we go with this kind of a fad? And controversy is also good for us. I mean, any publicity is good publicity. What do you feel, sir, about that?
Let me tell you, you have to first you have to tell me what is your target audience. Please think of your target audience and then decide accordingly. Let me tell you, I can give you two examples that come to my mind right away. One is that Amul girl. I don't know who created that Amul girl, but she has been a wonderful success. She has been a huge success. Oh, and what is the tagline? Doodh Pita India. What does it say? Amul Doodh Pita India. Okay, and you remember that song which was there in Manthan, Maro Gam Kota Ware, Jahan Doodh Ki Nadiyan Bahen. This song was there in Sam Benegal's movie, and later on it became a big advertisement. In fact, sometimes they still play it. The second example that I can give you is polio. Amitabh Bachchan, the use of Amitabh Bachchan in that polio advertisement. And you must have noticed that initially Amitabh Bachchan would simply come there and he would say, "Jaiye, polio ki खुराक लीजिए." And then subsequently, let me tell you, a lot of thought goes into it. Subsequently, what they did, that Amitabh Bachchan is known for his angry animal image. So why not tap that angry animal image? You would remember that those two advertisements. In one of the ads, he says, Amitabh Bachchan gets angry. He says, "आप गए नहीं अभी तक, आप गए नहीं, आप कैसे आदमी हैं? आपको बोला मैंने कितने बार बोला, आप जाते नहीं हैं." And let me tell you, that was a huge success. There was one more advertisement after that, where like Amitabh Bachchan gets angry and he says, "आप सुनते नहीं हैं, आप जाते नहीं हैं." And then he just exits the screen, and Aishwarya Rai walks in, and she asks, "सर को आपने नाराज कर दिया, आप दो दो बूंदी तो लेना है." Okay, and it was a huge success. It was a huge success, and I'm sure Amitabh Bachchan made a huge contribution to it. We have eradicated polio. We have completely eradicated polio, and we could do it. I'm sure Amitabh Bachchan also had a contribution to this, and I'm sure that guy also who designed that advertisement. So there is storytelling in advertisements also. Correct? There is storytelling. Yeah. Anybody else? In the urge for storytelling, most of the time, the credibility of media content is lost. Do you agree? Not really. If the credibility of media content will be lost, then the story will fall flat. It will be a failure. It will be a failure. Which media content are you talking about?
not specifically one media, sir. Any kind of
Oh,
media now these days we see it could be television serials or any kind of programs what we see in the urge of storytelling. Sometimes the actual information or awareness, the kind of functions what we call in terms of media functions, is lost somewhere. We feel, we are. Example, if I have to
no, but
give is hello.
yeah, please go ahead. Please go
Yes,
ahead.
sir. If I have to give some of the examples of Kannada serials, sometimes when it is broadcasted, I feel that media should play a very important role of educating, entertaining, or giving a kind of information to the people. Sometimes the kind of content what is broadcasted, it is not up to the mark. So, what do you
I think
feel
you
about
are talking
this?
about these channels, news
Yeah,
channels.
yeah,
Even news channels,
yes.
they tell serials and other things.
Correct,
That's what
correct.
you are talking about.
Yeah, storytelling can be in any of the platforms, right, sir? It is not only in terms of digital or anything. I'm talking about any kind
I
of
don't
content.
know, but like I heard one of the guys saying that हम लोग तो वो दिखाते हैं जो लोग देखना चाहते हैं. We don't show what people don't want to see. But this is irresponsible, let me tell you. This is irresponsible because if you want to tell stories, then you should create a storytelling, storytelling channel. Why show it on news channel?
No, no,
But
I'm not
let
talking.
me tell
I'm
you,
not, sir. I'm not only talking about news. I'm talking about any entertainment channel or these serials which are broadcasted in a digital platforms. It could be anything. Okay. Sometimes some contents are baseless, but even though people watch it, don't you think it is actually the credibility of the media content is lost just for the name sake of TRP or getting kind of publicity we do?
yes, that does happen. But then I mean, you have said it yourself that they are takers for this kind of thing. They are takers. Like you must have heard about that the showpiece in the GP.
Right.
That they are that I mean, the central characters, Shweta Tiwari and what was his name, Rohit, what, Rohit Roy. They never
Yes.
grew old. I mean, their children grew old. Everybody grew old around them. Everybody, people died around them, but they remained young. But that's what people wanted to see. But let me tell you, well, it was irresponsible, and
Yes,
filmmakers
sir.
and everybody. They,
But
they
media
like,
should be responsible in giving such
yes, yes,
contents to the
yes,
public.
yes, 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 correct, correct, correct. The kind of, kind of content Ekta Kapoor peddles. At times, that's also reprehensible. But then, there'll always be responsible people, and there'll always be irresponsible. So
Yes.
we'll have to live with them
Yes. Thank you.
because media is still like self-control. Yes, sir.
Yes.
Anybody else?
Audience, anybody else, participants, do you have any questions? One last question we can take if there is anyone.
Yes, Vasant. G Vasant. No,
I think it is by mistake, I guess.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, by mistake, sorry.
no issues.
Okay, I think that is about it, sir.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, sir, for this
Thank
one.
you very much, and it was wonderful interacting with you. In fact, I would have loved to give more time for interaction because storytelling is about interaction. If there's no interaction, you would remember like when the old people would tell us stories, they would expect us to say yes, um, mm, mm. They would all expect us to do this, and if we wouldn't do it, then they would simply stop telling the story.
True,
So
true,
there
sir.
has to
Very
be,
true.
yeah. Anyway, thank you so much, everybody, and it was wonderful talking to you, interacting with you. Uh, all the best. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for this wonderful session on storytelling in media space. This was ample food for thought and also for patiently answering all the questions. Dear participants, feedback form is posted in the chat box. Please fill it. It is mandatory to fill feedback every day. The essence of all beautiful art is gratitude. I am delighted to propose vote of thanks. To quote John F. Kennedy, the goal of education is the advancement of knowledge and the dissemination of truth. I convey my heartfelt thanks to all those who have joined today's FDP session. Thank you all for making today's FDP session a success. Take care. Please do remember to join for tomorrow's session. Have a great evening.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.